We're talking about a dream relegated to ancient myths and, let's be real, a lot of spectacular failures. For decades, ambitious inventors, well-funded academics, and even a few self-proclaimed geniuses literally crashed and burned. So, how on earth did two unassuming brothers, whose main gig was patching up bicycle tires, achieve what the world's brightest minds couldn't? Get ready for the dramatic, often dangerous, and ultimately triumphant tale of the first airplane. Everyone thinks the first flight was a sleek bird taking gracefully to the sky, right? Wrong. Imagine hurtling through the air, completely exposed, riding a creaky wooden contraption just 20 feet up. Your whole body was the control panel, swaying between life and a swift, brutal landing. This wasn't some stunt. This was humanity's impossible dream taking flight, and you'll never guess who pulled it off, or how close we came to never flying at all. It was a thrilling, terrifying 12-second dance between two guys and their machine, totally redefining what humans could achieve. And who were these daring duo? Just two bicycle mechanics from Ohio, the one and only Wright Brothers. Today, we casually hop onto sleek metal birds, sipping coffee at 35,000 feet, jetting across continents like it's no big deal. But just over a century ago, the very thought of sustained flight was considered pure fantasy. It was a crude, wooden marvel, born from absolutely relentless dedication, incredibly meticulous science, and, let's be honest, an almost suicidal bravery. Our story actually kicks off not with some grand vision of air travel, but with a, shall we say, rather unfortunate incident. In 1896, the German aviation pioneer Otto Lilienthal, a guy whose gliding experiments inspired many, tragically plummeted to his death. This wasn't just a sad news item for Wilbur and Orville Wright in Dayton, Ohio. It was actually a call to action. They realized that while Lilienthal had pretty much nailed how to generate lift, he was totally missing one crucial piece: control. They figured, and they were totally right, that if you could control a machine in 3 dimensions, pitch, roll, and yaw, just like a bird, you could totally conquer the sky. If that surprising pivot changed everything for them, what vital piece do you think other inventors missed? Let us know below. Their journey wasn't some instant stroke of genius, but rather a grueling, methodical process of trial and a lot of error. From 1900 to 1903, they basically turned the wind-swept dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, into their own super high-stakes, personal laboratory. Their early gliders? Oh, they were often absolutely terrifying. Can you imagine the sheer panic of well digging? That's when you spiral uncontrollably into the sand, barely escaping injury. But here's the thing. Each crash, every single failed flight, wasn't a defeat for them. Nope, it was a lesson. They meticulously documented absolutely everything, applying their bicycle mechanics' precision to the most complex challenge of their era. Now, these brothers, being famously self-reliant, hit a pretty big roadblock pretty quickly. Turns out, the existing scientific data on aerodynamics at the time was, to put it mildly, completely useless. Every published table, every accepted theory, just led them totally astray. Most people would have just thrown in the towel right there, chalking it up to the inherent impossibility of flight. But not the Wrights. In a move that truly showed their genius and basically revolutionized engineering as we know it, they decided, fine, we'll build our own. And oh, did they ever. In 1901, tucked away in the back room of their humble bicycle shop, they actually built their very own homemade wind tunnel. Just wrap your head around that for a second. 2 men, without any formal scientific training, constructing a device that would become absolutely foundational to modern aerospace engineering. They spent weeks, even months, systematically testing hundreds of miniature wing shapes. They were meticulously logging data, sketching, recalibrating everything. This wasn't just invention. This was the birth of true empirical aerodynamics, fueled by relentless frustration and an unshakable belief that eventually the numbers just had to work out. With the aerodynamic puzzle slowly but surely coming together, they faced another massive hurdle: power. Think about it. No existing engine was light enough and powerful enough for their design. So, what did they do? They built one themselves, of course. Enlisting the genius of their trusted shop mechanic, Charlie Taylor, they custom fabricated a 12-horsepower gasoline engine. And get this, it weighed only 180 pounds. That was an engineering marvel in itself. They even designed their own propellers, making them way more efficient than any previous attempts. They didn't just invent the airplane, folks. They practically invented every critical component of it. Meanwhile, across the country, a very respected scientist and secretary of the Smithsonian, Samuel Langley, was getting tons of government funding for his own ambitious flying machine, the aerodrome. The press eagerly followed his progress. The whole world basically waited for Langley to conquer the skies. But just days before the Wrights' big triumph, Langley's much-heralded aerodrome took not one, but two spectacular plunges into the Potomac River. It was a crushing, very public failure. The world was utterly convinced flight was impossible. Yet, 700 miles away, two brothers were about to prove everyone gloriously, deliciously wrong. If this unbelievable contrast between public failure and quiet triumphs surprised you, why not subscribe and join our journey through more untold firsts? Fast forward to December 17, 1903, Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. It was a bitterly cold, blustery morning. The air was thick with tension, hope, and years of pure sweat. The wind howled at 27 miles an hour. Yikes, pretty dangerous. But the brothers knew their machine. This crude contraption, a biplane made of spruce wood and muslin, waited patiently on a 60-foot launch rail, laid right there on the sand. There were only 5 witnesses, some brave lifesavers from a nearby station, and a camera on a tripod, ready to capture absolute history. Orville lay prone on the lower wing, his left hand on the lever for pitch control the elevator, his right hand on the lever for the rudder yaw, and his hips shifting within a cradle to engage the wing warping mechanism for roll. The 12-horsepower engine finally coughed to life, and those twin propellers began to whir. With a push, the flyer creaked forward. It definitely wasn't elegant. It was loud, a bit ungainly, and terrifyingly unstable. But after a mere 40 feet, the flyer actually lifted. For 12 glorious, absolutely heart-stopping seconds, at an altitude of about 20 feet, Orville Wright wrestled with those rudimentary controls, keeping that heavy machine aloft for a distance of 120 feet. It touched down, not gracefully, but safely. Silence, then pure exhilaration. They had done it, the first flight. Later that day, Wilbur took his turn, soaring for an astonishing 59 seconds, covering a whopping 852 feet. Humanity's ancient dream had finally been realized. Now, compare that rough-hewn wooden structure, weighing just over 600 pounds, piloted by a man lying on his stomach, to today's Boeing 747s. Those sophisticated aluminum giants weigh nearly 1 million pounds, crossing oceans with thousands of passengers. The Wright Flyer had no cockpit, no heated cabin, and definitely no autopilot. It was loud, uncomfortable, and unbelievably dangerous. Yet, this crude wooden contraption was the genetic ancestor of every single aircraft that has ever flown. And even after their triumph, recognition was an immediate nope. The world was skeptical, and newspapers pretty much dismissed it. The Smithsonian, stung by Langley's failure, engaged in a controversial dispute for many years, asserting that Langley's aerodrome was capable of flight before the Wright Flyer, a claim that ultimately led to the Wright Flyer being displayed in a British museum for decades. But the sky, once this insurmountable barrier, was now an open frontier. The Wright Brothers' story isn't just about inventing a machine. It's about pioneering a whole philosophy of systematic design, empirical testing, and truly relentless persistence against impossible odds. So, What if those dangerous early crashes had just completely broken their spirit? What if they hadn't built that makeshift wind tunnel? Do you think you would have had the courage to lie on that primitive flyer, knowing all the risks, knowing all the skepticism, for a mere 12 seconds of glory? Or which first thing do you think faced the most impossible struggle to come into existence, only to change our world forever? Share your thoughts below, then challenge yourself. Could you persist through such odds?